protecting our kids as best as we can, and also understanding the role that they play in this really.
For years, Buckingham Palace acted like it didn't hear a thing. And now, suddenly, everything has changed. Word from inside the palace claimed that official papers had finally been prepared. Not draft notes, not warnings, not we'll decide later, but final orders. Orders that would permanently change the future of two children who never asked to be part of this fight, Archie and Lilibet. According to those familiar with the process, the message inside those papers was brutally simple. Their claim to royal identity is gone. Not delayed, not under review, gone. And the moment those words were written, the silence of the palace finally made sense. They weren't ignoring anything. They were waiting, calm, patient, and absolutely certain that the rule book would speak louder than anything Meghan and Harry said publicly. But to understand why the monarchy made such a cold, final decision, we have to open a very old book. One written long before Meghan, Harry, or their children were ever imagined. A rule book that has controlled the royal bloodline for more than 100 years. The year was 1917. The world was at war, empires were collapsing, and the British monarchy was desperately trying to protect itself from confusion, imposters, and political threats. So, King George V did something no monarch had done before. He wrote down in official legal language exactly who could be called a prince or princess. Not as a story, not as tradition, as law. His declaration was called the Letters Patent, and it became the backbone of royal identity for every generation that followed. Inside this document were 3 strict rules a royal child must meet. Rule 1, the child must be of legitimate royal bloodline. The monarchy wanted to make sure no one without clear royal heritage slipped into the line. Rule 2, the child's birth must be formally recognized and recorded by the Crown, not by a press release, not by a private announcement, by the royal household itself. Rule 3, the child must be connected to the Church of England through an official christening. This wasn't optional. It was considered a legal step in royal identity. These rules were cold, precise, and unchanging. They were designed to protect the monarchy from exactly what it feared most, confusion. For decades, every royal birth followed these rules perfectly. No shortcuts, no exceptions, no drama. Until Archie was born, and the very first crack appeared in the royal record. Archie's birth in 2019 should have been simple. A joyful announcement. Smiling parents, a new baby welcomed into history. And at first, that's exactly how it looked. But inside the legal paperwork, inside the one document meant to protect a royal child's identity forever, something strange happened. Archie's birth certificate originally listed his mother as most legal documents would. Rachel Meghan Markle, everything normal, everything correct. But later, the document was changed quietly, suddenly without a clear explanation. Meghan's full legal name was removed and replaced with one phrase, Her Royal Highness, the Duchess of Sussex. Now, normally birth certificates are locked. They don't get edited like school essays or updated like social media profiles. They are meant to be permanent. So, when this change appeared, it set off alarm bells behind palace walls. Meghan claimed the palace forced the change. Palace aides claimed Meghan requested it. Both sides denied the other. And no one ever gave a final agreed-on answer. But here's what mattered to the monarchy. A royal birth record had been altered. And once a royal record has doubt attached to it, that doubt becomes a crack. One that spreads, one that grows, one that eventually leads to everything collapsing. By the time Lilibet was born in 2021, the palace had already learned something powerful. Silence can be louder than any statement. Because when her birth came, the world expected a familiar scene. Royal doctors standing by. Official announcements from Buckingham Palace. Photographers ready to document the newest member of the royal family. But none of that happened. Instead, the birth of Harry and Meghan's daughter arrived from thousands of miles away, wrapped in a cheerful press release from sunny California. A modern announcement, a friendly message, a picture-perfect statement. But something was missing. Actually, someone was missing. The crown. There was no royal seal, no palace confirmation, no formal record, no appearance of any official royal witness. And to those who study royal protocol, this wasn't small. This was a signal, a quiet message delivered without a single spoken word. We are not claiming this. For centuries, royal births had been treated almost like historical ceremonies. Every detail mattered. Where the child was born, who delivered them, which doctors signed off, how the crown recorded it. These steps weren't just tradition. They were the monarchy's way of saying this child belongs to our history. But with Lilibet, none of those steps were followed. To the public, it looked like a simple difference. One baby born in the UK, one baby born in America. But to the palace, it was much bigger. A royal child was introduced to the world without the crown's involvement, making her the first Windsor descendant in modern times to enter the world outside the royal record. And inside Buckingham Palace, this wasn't viewed as an accident. It was viewed as a shift, a break from the pathway every royal baby had walked for over 100 years. The quiet rejection had begun. If the birth raised eyebrows, what happened next triggered real alarm. Months later, Meghan shared that Lilibet had been baptized in California. She spoke warmly about the ceremony, the joy, the photos, the meaning. But behind palace walls, the reaction was very different. Because for royal children, a baptism isn't just a family event. It is one of the core requirements set by the 1917 Letters Patent. It's the moment the child is formally tied to the Church of England, the crown, and the centuries of tradition behind them. It is a legal marker just as important as a birth certificate. But according to sources familiar with church records, Lilibet's California baptism was never registered with the Church of England. To the couple, it was a beautiful celebration. To the monarchy, it was a ceremony that didn't exist. And in the royal world, this is not a small issue. This is structural. A child without a recognized Church of England christening is considered outside the official record, no matter how heartfelt the ceremony was. Inside palace circles, this was viewed as an avoidable but irreversible mistake. The crown saw it as a break in protocol, not by the child, but by the parents. And instead of strengthening Lilibet's connection to the monarchy, the event did the opposite. It left her floating between two worlds, celebrated by her family in America, but unrecognized by the institution she was born into. While these cracks formed quietly, another problem was growing, something far more personal and far more painful. When Meghan married Harry, she didn't just join a family, she stepped into a global story, a royal story. As cracks in the royal foundation widened around his children, Harry did something no one expected from a prince who swore he was done with the monarchy. He reached back. According to those familiar with the private conversations, Harry made late-night calls to the very institution he had walked away from. These were not strategic calls, not polished media-ready speeches. They were emotional, personal, pleading. He begged the palace to reconsider. Begged for Archie and Lilibet to be written into the royal record. Begged for the titles he believed his children deserved by blood. To Harry, this wasn't about fame or branding. This was about legacy, the one thing he thought he could protect even after stepping down. He believed he could leave royal duties behind and still raise royal heirs. But every time he tried to explain, he hit the same unmovable wall. A palace aide allegedly responded to him with a sentence so cold, so direct that it would echo in his mind for months. This is not about emotion. This is about order, lineage, and the future of the crown. And for Harry, that was the moment everything shifted. Because he realized something devastating. He wasn't just the prince who stepped away from royal life. He had become the prince whose children were being erased from it. Once the palace made its decision, it moved with extraordinary precision. No cameras, no press conferences, no dramatic royal statements, just quiet, steady action, the kind the crown is famous for. According to insiders, the consequences were not gentle, not temporary, not negotiable. This was the full list of what Archie and Lilibet allegedly lost. No royal titles, no prince, no princess, no ceremonial roles, no official duties, no public honors, no place in the line of succession, names removed or blocked from the legal order, no crown-funded security, their protection left entirely to their parents, no permanent record in royal archives, the books that outlast centuries no longer include them. In the world of royalty, titles aren't just words, they are keys. They open doors to history. They tie a child to a lineage. They guarantee a place in a story larger than any individual. Without those keys, a royal child becomes ordinary. And that is exactly what the palace's final orders did. They stripped away everything that connected Archie and Lilibet to the centuries-old Windsor legacy. Not as punishment, not as revenge, but as protocol. The monarchy had acted and nothing would be the same again. In the end, Buckingham Palace never shouted, never argued, never tried to outtalk the whirlwind of interviews, podcasts, or documentaries. It didn't need to, because the monarchy has always understood its greatest power: silence. Silence is not emptiness. Silence is strategy. Silence is the crown's way of saying everything without saying a word. For years, the palace watched from a distance, quiet, still, patient. It watched Meghan build her brand as a royal mother. It watched Harry struggle to bridge two worlds. It watched the documentaries, the public speeches, the palace criticisms, all without responding. Because the monarchy knew something the rest of the world forgot. Power is not proven with noise. Power is proven with finality. And when the time came, the crown acted with the cold precision of an institution older than empires. It erased titles. It rewrote records. It removed names from history's path with a message that will echo louder than anything Harry and Meghan have ever said. The crown does not bend. Not for personalities, not for celebrity, not for noise or attention. And once the crown chooses to erase your place in its story, you are not a rebel. You are not a threat. You are not even a chapter. You are simply gone. That is the monarchy's final message. Chilling, quiet, permanent. And it leaves one last truth lingering in the air. Archie and Lilibet will grow up loved, protected, and free. But the pages of royal history, the pages that last longer than any interview or documentary, will not carry their names. The absence is the punishment. The silence is the answer. And the decision once made is forever.